Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Brick Bucks Live. Once again, I am your host, Jim. We're also here with Shane and our guest that I've been very much looking forward to. I've kind of known for, I don't know, maybe a few months, and I've always appreciated any type of opinion he's had or any type of strategy that he's been able to share. He's a current Patreon member. Steve, thanks for joining us tonight.
Hey, Jim, thanks for having me.
So let me tell you, man, I said in the intro that, we really, I've only known each other for a few months, but I feel like it's been a lot longer. And I believe it's because when it comes to the strategy, the vision, the outlook, when it comes to Legos, I feel like that we kind of mirror each other a little bit. But then again, I know nothing about the genesis of you selling Lego. Would you mind just giving us a little bit of background of how you came across Lego and how long you've been doing it for?
Sure. So I've been an online reseller for since 2002, I think, is when my eBay account originated, and I
Wow.
quickly started selling there. Um, my Amazon journey, I didn't do any Lego on eBay. My Amazon journey started in 2016, and somewhere along the way, I figured, I found out that hey, Lego sells pretty well. The problem was I didn't know about clearance, and I didn't know about holding it and investing. So I would find the occasional deal here and there and resell it. Um, Somebody that I know turned me on to through Lego. Uh, Actually work with him, and he didn't know I was an Amazon seller. I didn't know he was an Amazon seller. He kind of mentioned it, um, and I said, "Huh, I know it sells good, but how do you make any money on it? You can't really buy it wholesale unless you have brick and mortar or whatnot." Um, and then he sort of explained the whole retiring thing to me, um, and so I kind of watched him do it for a while, and I was, he would say invest like $10,000 into it, and he'd be thrilled that he would make between 5 and 10,000 every Christmas, right? Without doing any in depth analysis. He's more of a clearance uh, searcher, I guess, whatever you want to call that. Every December 26th and July, he'd be running through WalMarts trying to snatch up the clearance, primarily using PrickSeek. Um, so, I watched him do that for a little while. I mirrored it for a little while, and then I, I actually saw your channel last year, probably when it was still somewhat new, or at least the Brickbucks name of it was still somewhat new. Um, and then I was talking to him, and I said, you can really throw a lot of money at this. You can scale that. If you can buy $10,000 of Lego, why can't you buy 50? And it's like if you like he was so confident that he could turn 10 into 20. I said, well, why don't we turn 50 into 100? And well, that's what I've been trying to do, at least with the Lego.
Gotcha. So would you say because of COVID that last year was probably your best year?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I was sort of following the model: buy during the year, sell at Christmas. Well, I bought everything. Let's say in 2019, I had a stock room full of it, and it was almost gone by July. And I was like,
Right.
"Oh no, what am I gonna do for Christmas?" Right? Um, so then I had to keep buying and just okay, what's going to retire at the end of the year? Keep buying, keep buying, keep buying. And then I was buying stuff that wasn't even retired, and I was flipping it at Christmas. It was insane because I have a Walmart near me, and I'm in somewhat of a rural area, so it's not very crowded. So I really had no fear of going in there and wiping shelves clean of Lego and then putting it on my Amazon, and they'd be gone almost before I got home. And there was no one in there, so the shelves were pretty well stocked. I could just take what I wanted because everybody was online shopping and nobody was going in the store. So that was my best Q4 ever. Now, granted, several of my years were like, I had like $70,000 in sales. You have like $7,000 profit. It wasn't really a business.
Right.
Last year I went from, I don't know, the previous year might have been about 70,000 in sales, and last year it was 465,000 in sales or something like that. So
God bless you.
yeah, I mean, I'm actually tracking for that this year or more already. So it's not entirely COVID, but last year I didn't have to plan so much. You could just sell anything you could get your hands on.
So are you in the same predicament that I am, that a lot of my sales from, not a lot, but a significant part of my sales from this year kind of went out last year, and you're kind of re-strategizing or trying to come up with different ways so you don't have a lean year?
Yeah, I have, let's say, very few mature retired sets. Most of my stuff is, retired in December or is retiring in July. There's some exceptions to that, but that's what a lot of it is. And I would have liked to have had stuff that retired last summer still sitting on the shelf maturing. But I think my strategy changes over time. At first was like, all right, keep it for 18 months. You'll get 100 to 200% ROI, depending. Now I'm like, well, if I can get 80 to 100% every 6 months, what's the difference? It might actually be better return on investment. And if you make a mistake, if you choose the wrong set, or something like the ATST predicament comes up where you buy so much stuff and you think it's going to go out, and you're like, okay, that's not going to sell quite as fast as I thought it was going to. I think it gives you a way out where you say, okay, I can liquidate this. I'm going to say liquidate because I'm not really going to lose any money. You can always get regular retail price on Amazon. You might lose the fees, but like if you needed to offload something, it's gone. I don't actually recommend doing that, but it's an option. But you could get out of it and reinvest the money, and say, okay, I shouldn't have bought so many ATSTs. Well, let me go buy some creeper mines before they go out, and you can correct a decision. Whereas if you're no, I'm going to hold it for 18 months. I don't know what some of these sets are going to do in 18 months. If you didn't make a good investment decision, you might have to hold it for 24, and now you're losing the opportunity to get higher ROI on your money.
Okay. Was there a particular theme that you did better at than others last year, or are you that broad when it comes to diversity? You kind of didn't. I mean, you saw successes, but maybe from various different themes, or were you like, "Whoa, friends, friends, friends is really kicking butt this Q4." How about that?
In terms of flipping, I did a lot of Harry Potter stuff that was still in production. I think Amazon was running out, and if I could still get it at the store, I could command a 50% premium on the RRP. In terms of like investment and retirement sets, I did pretty well in Jurassic Park, the previous retirements, which was like the Velociraptor chase, the Dilophosaurus something or other. Not the one that just retired, but there was one before that. Those did pretty well. It's been so long, and I have so much more Lego now than I did then. Like so much. I probably had like 10,000 invested in Lego last year, and now with a lot of stuff on my front porch and a lot of stuff in my garage that is yet to be counted, I have about 50,000 in cost. My goal is to get up near 100.
Right. That's fantastic. And then is the plan to like double up every year, or is the plan to kind of live on some of that income and, maintain a steady, just churn? Or how are you thinking about that?
I haven't taken any money out of this business. Well, I take that back. I paid off some like not personal loans, like cars and things like that in the last few years. I have one part of the business that's seasonal that I can take out about, it's like it probably generates about $10,000 in profit in about 2 months. So I always took that was like, kill the credit cards, kill the car loans. I was going to kill my student debt, but since it's on pause and we're all waiting to see if they forgive a certain amount, I'm like, well, I'm not giving them that money yet. But yeah, to answer your question, I'm trying not to take any money out of the business, and I want to double every year. And sometime around, if I get $500,000 in cash or $500,000 invested, I might think about quitting my job. Because if I have that much in capital and I know that I can pull some salary from that, it's like, well, how much can I pull if I'm not working an 8-hour shift?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've thought about, quitting my job, and my plan is pretty much the same. Once I turn 50, I'm going to evaluate and probably cash in my chips. But then if I do that, I'll have some extra time on my hands. So I will probably start something else on the side. And then eventually that will dominate my life. And then, and then I will, we go down these rabbit holes, and you're like, do I really want to do this? So I'm happy where I'm at right now. Um, I'm excited about what's going to happen this Q4, but especially next Q4. I'm super excited about what's going to happen in the 2022 Q4 because I'm hoping to just kill it. But it's interesting. Let's, if you don't mind, and for the viewers watching, we are going to have a certain amount of privacy and anonymity when we ask our questions for Steve. He does have a private label product that he sells on Amazon, and we're not even going to ask him what that is. But my curiosity is, I've thought about getting into the private label business on Amazon, and I was just curious how you came across your product. Was it one day you were, and I'm just spitballing here, one day you were at a GNC and you're like, oh, I really need this supplement, and the people are like, well, we don't have it, and then you Googled it and you're like, wait, I could mass produce this? Or was this a pet supply thing? Or, and again, we're not going to say what it is, but what made you go down that private label line? Is that something that you were always wanting to do, and you just had to do some due diligence? Or if you could just speak about that.
So I'm going to try and answer your question in a roundabout sort of way, while providing some background so people kind of understand the thought process. So throughout my e-commerce journey, I have always taken a look at my hobbies and said, what can I do? What can I sell? What service can I provide that's related to this that I know a lot about, and turn it into cash? And the problem with my hobbies were they were always sort of niche. Like, I don't play baseball. I'm not going to sell you the next best baseball glove or, baseball bat or whatever. My hobbies don't reach millions of people. Which, if any of your viewers do have hobbies that reach millions of people, you can make a lot of money doing that. The flip side is there's a million other people trying to do it as well. So you have a lot of competition. So where my hobbies are kind of niche, there's not a huge audience, but there's hardly any competition, right? And if you take any sort of private label course, I think the one I had followed originally was like the Amazing Seller. He has the Amazing Seller podcast. He has like millions of listeners, and he kind of provided a formula. And it was basically take something use a piece of software called Jungle Scout, And you can basically use this thing to filter down your criteria. You're going to say, okay, I'm going to sell something in, let's say, pet supplies, dog related, chew toy. Okay, what sells here? And they go, okay, it seems like they sell an awful lot of, like rubber balls, and that they huge sales velocity and huge like sales volume. Say, okay, so somebody looks like there's like say 1 million units sold, and there's like 10 people doing it, and you say, okay, can I take 10% of that volume and make a lot of money, right? Because you can be the 11th guy, and you're going to get just under 10% of the sales if if you're just like mediocre at it.
Right.
You could be outstanding and get 50% of the sales, but let's just say you're not an expert, right? You're just trying to take a chunk, and you can do that. But the problem with Amazon is that a lot of it was basic. Okay, go on Alibaba, go try to source a product. Well, guess what? All of the manufacturers on Alibaba are also selling on Amazon. And if you tell them to modify the product to, the advice of that course was take a good selling product and try to improve it. Well, you're telling the manufacturer that also sells on Amazon to improve the product to compete with him. Well, guess what? He's just going to sell the same exact thing as you, or tell one of his clients if he's not an actual Amazon seller, hey, I'm offering up this new and improved version of a chew toy. So the whole Alibaba route just it wasn't a good fit for me, and COVID really kind of taught me that, hey, a pandemic can just completely halt your business, because guess what? The boat stopped. There's no shipping containers coming into the US, right? Or it's significantly delayed, or, that company that you were working for now makes face masks instead of chew toys because that's far more profitable, right? It's international commerce. You have no contract with somebody in another country. There's no court to go to that says you owe me all this money, you owe me all this product. It's like, it just disappears if they decide to, not manufacture a product or no longer sell it to you, or change their business model or whatever. So I started focusing on one of my hobbies, and without giving it away, it's a hobby that the private label product is made out of steel. And if anybody knows anything about, let's say, tools or just U.S. steel versus steel made coming out of China, you could just Google it. U.S. steel is higher quality. It's a known fact, and anybody that knows anything about metal will contest to that. And probably a million listings on Google saying that. So the Chinese companies that are selling my product, right? I should say that not necessarily Chinese, but my competitors that are sourcing the product from China can't compete with me because mine's made in the US. And I don't have any logistics problems getting it because it's like 300 miles away. And if I have it trucked to me on a pallet, it's there in a day. Whereas they're like waiting weeks and weeks and weeks for something to show up on a boat. So if they go out of stock, it could be a long time before they come back in stock. So just logistically, it was like, all right, let's get stuff that's made in the US. Even if you don't want to have it trucked to you, UPS ground is not going to be horrifically expensive. Whereas if you're getting something, putting on a shipping container, and you're paying import duties, and then you're paying a freight forwarder in the US to then truck it to you or to Amazon, that's a lot of money. It might not, it's probably less. It's a lot less money than UPS ground. But if you're just trying to dip your toe in the water on a product, I could just order 50 from a manufacturer, have them UPS ground it to me, and it's a test, not a big investment to say, does this really work? If you're getting it from China, 50 is probably something. If you're going to get 50 of something that's a decent size, it's going to be too much to airmail it. It's going to cost you $300, $400, $500 for I don't know, a moving box worth of stuff. So I really tried to stay with U.S. manufacturers, and I also use it as I'm going to say middle America probably uses my product the most. Just think of farmers and blue collar people and whatnot. You put that made in America stamp on there, and they're just, if it's not significantly more expensive than the alternative, they're just going to choose it because, oh, it's made in America. It's US made steel. Why do I want to buy the brand name that doesn't even make any sense? I don't know if anybody's ever noticed that. Nobody ever looks at brands on Amazon, but if you look up like the brand name of a private label earphones, they're not real. It's not like a real name. It's like somebody put into a name generator and it comes out of gobbledygook. It's like they couldn't think of anything. So like, all right, just throw this meaningless word in here and whatever. So that answer your question?
It did. And let me tell you, I have no idea what your product is, but you got me excited about it. Like I just want to order it. It's made in America. It's steel, and you know, I could be wrong. I'm not sure where you're located. You sound like maybe a New Englander. I'm from Pittsburgh, and if there's one thing Pittsburghers know, it's certainly about steel. So everything you're saying is right up my alley, and that's awesome. So that's cool. Now, you're doing? You have a distributor in the U.S., which I could only guess gives you a serious competitor's advantage over everybody else. Was it, you know, it's one thing going on Alibaba, but it's another thing, you know, getting on the horn and, you know, dialing for dollars to these vendors in the US, because in Alibaba and the Asian countries, I mean, they'll sell you anything as long as you get the minimum.
Right.
Now, when it comes to here in the US, I could be wrong, but I really don't think I am. It's you have to kind of prove yourself, almost like getting ungated with Amazon and and other things, like you getting ungated in Star Wars Legos. They sometimes they want people to see a track record. Was it difficult, I guess, finding a vendor in the US, and two, finding a vendor that was you know, so willing to do business with you, because you're you know, just one person with a company?
Yes. So I have, let's say, two private label products that are one goes with the other. They're manufactured by two different companies, and those two companies were pretty easy to deal with because I think they're used to selling direct to. There's probably some instances where they are selling direct to users, but these users would be businesses, not just, you know, a low volume user. So they're used to shipping a pallet to Joe's garage, right? And that's okay because it's a sort of a high volume use product. And it's so niche that only some Joe's garages are going to buy it, if that makes sense. And I'm just using Joe's garage. It has nothing to do with automotive, but I'm trying to just paint a picture for you without giving myself away. Now, on the flip side, it's very niche. So there was no U.S. Now, there was one U.S. competitor who disappeared from Amazon shortly after I joined, luckily for me. But I have another product that I've been trying to procure, and I'm very local to this manufacturer, and I've been waiting months. They said it's approved, and they're like taking forever to, you know, give me a price list and let me order. And they asked me all kinds of questions. They went proactively out just using my business name, looking for websites, looking for Amazon stores, actually looking at what vendors I had purchased this product from in the past. So I was buying something from another company in another part of the country to sell the stuff locally at one point, right? And so I said, okay, this is great, but I want to buy directly from the manufacturer. And then, you know, the first question, oh, I see you bought this from so-and-so. And oh no, we're going down this rabbit hole of they don't want to hurt their current vendors. They don't want to, say, oh, this vendor is going to be mad that you've circumvented them and gone to the manufacturer. So, yeah, I was kind of able to talk my way out of that. I was trying to get in touch with you. You never returned my email. So I had to go buy the product to satisfy my customers. So I had to go directly to a distributor. So that sort of satisfied them. But I would tell people, you got to be prepared. You got to have a website, even if it's like minimal, Shane's Legos at, this address. Try to get a commercial address. Rent a storage unit, rent a tiny office, rent a mailbox, something that when they type it in, they don't see your front door, right?
Right.
Get a sales tax ID in your state. You got to be a business. They want to see that you're a business, and they're going to test it, and they're going to go out and see if they can find you on Amazon. Because guess what? Today, Amazon's got your damn address out there, and anybody that knows what they're doing can find out what somebody's Amazon store is. It's not that difficult. So you got to appear to be a business to pass that sniff test. And the other thing you have to do is be able to talk about what you're selling. If you're just starting out, I've been yelled at this. I got yelled at by like a eBay guru for saying this. You kind of have to fake it to make it. You don't have to tell them that you're brand new and I've never sold Legos before. And I'm just using Legos as an example. You have to pretend like, hey, I've been doing this for a while. I know what I'm doing, or I've done something else, and we're trying to bring this into our product line. Throw some sales volume at them. There's no way they can verify it. Throw big numbers at them, and you get past the sniff test because they can't hold you to the sales volume unless you're, unless there's some crazy company that wants a guaranteed. They'll want a minimum purchase. That's on you, but you never have to actually sell it. Not exactly a good business practice, but there's no way for them to verify your sales volume. They'll just make you have a minimum purchase, and you'll have to deal with that, whether you're going to sell it or whatnot.
Yeah. Wow. So
you mentioned how much you did in Lego last year. Just out of curiosity, are you able to share how much you did with your private label product?
And
it's okay if you.
I'm fine with sharing it. I'm just trying to see if I know the difference between the two numbers. I know what I had invested in Lego. I know I had about $10,000 purchased. I'm probably assuming that I sold it for about 4x on that, and then probably doubled my money on ROI. That was invested. The Q4 flipping thing I didn't really keep track of because it was coming in and going out so quickly.
Right.
But I wasn't really tracking the cost. If anybody that does e-commerce business, everybody knows we track Lego on spreadsheets to track performance of the product. But if you're just doing e-commerce, if you're just buying widgets and selling widgets, you're looking at your total invoice bill and your total gross and your eBay fees, and you subtract it. You say, okay, I made $10,000. I don't know if I made $3 on this unit or $20 on the other unit. It's just, you can go in and figure it out if you want to examine it, but you don't really track it like that in retail. I'm sure Walmart does, but the average person that's flipping stuff on Amazon or eBay is, if you're selling thousands of units, there's no way you're going to try to keep track of every single one because you're moving the price up and down. I sold that one for $5, and I got $7.50 for this other one. I got $30 for this other one because there was a big price increase. But yeah, I think I got about 4x off the investment, and then I netted about 10,000 in profit on that. Not a lot. This year is going to be different.
Right.
Only June and I already have 5 times more inventory. I think it's much better chosen inventory. I'm a little more keen on the retirement cycles and the themes to purchase. So it should be an interesting year.
What year did you start your private label product, Steve?
Well, that's an interesting question because I tried a few things and I failed. In 2016, I followed that Amazing Sellers guide and I did something and I just chose a product that it was like a hobby I was interested in, but a hobby I didn't participate in, if that makes sense. I'll tell you, it was like I was interested in all these survival shows and living in the woods and building your own fire and all that stuff. And I was always interested in all the gear they sold. So I tried to sell it was like a survival kit. It had like a compass, a fire starter, might have been 2 fire starters, a whistle, something else, whatever. It was like a bundle. And it just didn't have the demand that you should look for when you're doing this stuff. And it had way too many competitors. So I started that in 2016. I've been doing this one since mid to late 2018, I think. And I've had a few small things in between there. I'm always testing things. Hey, does this sell? Does that sell? Oh, that didn't sell. But again, like I was saying, it's a test product. You buy 50 of something, you spend a little money getting photographs or whatever. You wind up learning how to do Photoshop, because the original thing was like, pay a photographer. That costs $300. And then pay somebody to edit the photos. Yeah, you can get away on Fiverr for that for like $50 or whatever. I mean, I'm still a novice at Photoshop, but I can get it to the point where I'm like, no one's gonna notice this. I actually pay somebody like 50 cents to remove the background. They'll do like 100 images for like $7. And I'm like,
Wow.
I'll make it look nice after that. I just need that background taken out because I don't have the time to try and do that. But you can make grids and stuff and whatever, make it look presentable. So kind of a jack of all trades. You learn out of the necessity. Just because you're like, okay, I can't invest a lot of money in this. This is just a test. I'm gonna see if this works. There's some people that are, you can go at it from the other angle where you're like, I'm a marketing genius. My brother is a great salesman. I got a friend that's a photographer. I mean, if you've gone to college for it and you're really trained, and that's a different story. Then you can probably go in and try to compete with a major brand or another major private label seller and use that other route. We say, listen, I can get the distributors. I can get good photographs. I have a network of people to get reviews for, to put this stuff in. And then you can try to elbow the big guy a little bit, right? But being a one-man show, that I'm not a marketing genius. I'm kind of learning it from doing rather than learning from an education perspective. So I just figure I'm not going to mess with the giant. I'm going to go after what the giant doesn't know, and I'm sitting in this space and I'm sort of waiting for the next competitor to come in, and they're not coming because I have so many variations and so many reviews now that even if you looked at it, you're like, it's going to take me a long time to compete with this guy. And some of it's a little bit of sweat equity, a little bit. We have to weigh the product and bag it. But my wife and I are willing to do that. It's nice, easy, mindless work. It's not, we could do 100 units in an hour, and each one of those units yields about $5 in profit. So when you're like, okay, so in an hour, I can make $500. I'm going to say less, of course, less taxes. You never include that in your gross, and maybe some advertising. I don't include that. About 20% is lost in advertising. But why wouldn't you do that? $350 in an hour? Now, I can't do that for 40 hours straight. I don't have that kind of demand on the product. But, it's getting to the point where if I do nothing and I'm able to, bag, say, 1,000 units a month, it's making between $2,000 and $3,000 by itself. So I'm taking that to me and buying the Lego, and it just keeps perpetuating. So I'm just, I don't have any of my own cash invested. $0. We're never taking anything out. Never put any money in.
I want everybody to just take pause and listen to exactly what Steven just said. Do you mind repeating that again?
I've invested none of my own money. I have I started all the Amazon business with a credit card. I don't necessarily recommend it unless you have a business. You have to have a business plan. Don't just start buying software and products and you're gonna, dig yourself into a hole. But I've done it all without investing any of my own money, which is something I'm sort of I've really been considering lately. I have some cash and I'm like, I can take this $10,000 or $20,000 and double it. Why don't I do that? And I think it's like the psychological thing where I'm like, well, that's in the bank. And if some opportunity comes up that I need that money, I have it. I don't have to worry about getting a loan. I don't have to worry about the economy. I don't have to worry about anything. I have the cash. And, everything else is sort of paid for. I think we lost Jim. Oh, is he back?
Sorry.
Jim, can you still hear? Okay.
I am.
There you go.
Yeah, Steve, I just love that point that Jim kind of highlighted as well, in that, like, the interesting thing about your story, and I think the reason we really wanted to talk about private label as well as Lego investing here, even though our audience is mostly coming from the Lego investing side, is that anyone who really wants to go big on Lego, it really can be very helpful to also learn other business models when it comes to e-commerce and other things that you could either resell or, work with distributors and do private label or wholesale or drop shipping or, a million and one other things that you could do, because then you will have, you can have something that's a little more active than Lego investing, right? Because if you're Lego investing, you've got big seasons of the year where you're going to be super busy, but there's also, times where you might be able to allocate a little more time to another side of your business that will, create the cash flow for you to then funnel back into your Lego investing. So, hearing you say that that's exactly what you're doing, I think it's just, to me, is like, it's, I guess, an example that, that folks who really want to go big could aspire to. And one of the things that you do differently, and you mentioned that, you're weighing the product and stuff like that, and that's kind of a major point, is that a lot of people, when they hear about private label, they're thinking about never touching the product, right? There's a lot of these, like the YouTube channels and the courses that will talk about, you're going to sit at home drinking coffee and you're never going to have to, lift the product or package things up or anything like that, because you're going to work with a supplier, from Alibaba, and they're going to ship it directly to Amazon's warehouse and you'll never have to do anything. But you obviously have taken a whole different approach. So can you talk a little bit about your setup in terms of, I think you have a warehouse space and you're obviously getting the stuff in on pallets. You're kind of approaching it differently than what a lot of people think of when they think private label, but in a way, the way you're doing it matches even better to also doing Lego, right? Because you have the space, you have the systems, you have the tools and all of that stuff. So can you just talk a little bit about your setup and your space?
Yeah, sure. So the warehouse is primarily for storing Lego, because it's just going to sit there for 6 months and not need to do anything. It just needs to be well protected, secure, dry, etc. Right. The main reason why I chose this place was it had access. I was searching Craigslist for loading dock under commercial real estate. So all I really needed was a loading dock. I don't need an office. I don't need a bathroom. I don't need anything. I need a truck to be able to back up to this and leave it there. And I'll, if in this case there is a space that I'm renting that I can store stuff, I would just load it right back into my truck and take it home. Because the private label stuff I would. Because I'm processing it on my kitchen table, believe it or not. I could do it in the warehouse, but I don't like to sit there all day. My wife is home, so she helps me. I have one child that's not in school yet. He's hanging around doing his thing, so we're able to just do it together at home for a few hours, and I don't have to leave. I don't have to go pick anything up, etc. It's just that probably 2 times a month I have pallets show up that I basically have them put it on the dock, and I just roll it right back into my pickup truck and take it home. But that loading dock does 2 things. It's a commercial address, so when somebody Googles it, they see a big old factory the factory is not a factory anymore, but it's in use as offices and whatnot in it, right? So boom, you're passing the sniff test there. You have a loading dock, So I'll give you an example. I was having this stuff shipped to my house via truck with a lift gate. It was costing me roughly $350 to only go maybe 300 miles. But it's the fact that they have to put it on a shorter truck that has a lift gate, make an appointment, go into a residential area, etc. It was $350. Now I can get it for $100 unlimited weight as long as it fits on a pallet, right? Because when you put things on a truck, they don't put pallets on top of pallets, at least not that I'm aware of. Everything is kind of like you have a pallet and then you could go all the way to the ceiling if you wanted to. The stuff is heavy. You can't stack them on. You can't stack, my stuff on top of Lego. You'd crush it, right? So, anyways, that made it a no-brainer because it was like, wait a minute, the rent for this space was, it was $300 a month, just kind of insanely cheap, As soon as you go somewhere that's like nice and has a nice office and has nice bathrooms and all the rest, you're paying $1,000, $2,000 a month. This was
Hey, Shane, how much do you pay rent for your warehouse? Are you at
We pay
liberty?
$3,000. We pay $3,000, 10 times your amount, Steve.
Yep. I mean, the downside to mine is I can't have any retail traffic. Can't have customers walking in, whatnot. It's kind of a secure building, but I can't accept shipments.
But Shane's bathrooms are really nice.
Yeah, my bathroom's not so nice. Not so nice. One of the units actually somebody just rents and has cats in it. It's sort of funny. It's far enough away where the smell's not like coming down the hallway or anything. But I'm like, well, there won't be any mice in here at least.
That's so funny.
It's funny. It sounds worse than it is, but I did go through there and I was like, that must have been an old office with windows, almost like a doctor's office where you can see through it. I'm like, there's just cats in there, and occasionally I'll see somebody sitting on the couch, but then they're not living there. There's no bed. That person doesn't live in that unit and whatever. They're like, no, they just rented it for the cats. There's probably 6 or 7 cats with litter boxes everywhere. I never thought I would see that in a warehouse, but whatever.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess for people listening who are thinking, oh, you have a warehouse space that you could just store your Lego. How do I get there? You need to find an incredible deal on the warehouse space if you're going to do that in the first couple of years. But I mean, over time, I think we talked to a lot of people who have scaled their Lego business to the point where they do need some external storage space, whether it's a storage unit starting out or a small warehouse. And, like Steve is saying, there are so many benefits when you have that, that commercial address, and talking to suppliers or anything like that, they're going to want to see that you're the real deal, and fake it till you make it is exactly what you can do when you have like a loading dock set up and stuff like that.
I would like to just clarify for people, just don't always just Google warehouse. That's dollar signs all day. You only really need an office that's relatively easy to get to. Like you want like first floor or have an elevator. You just need 4 walls and a ceiling and have it be secure, dry, etc. to store your Lego. You don't need a loading dock. You don't need a high-tech office. It's just a place for the Lego to sit. Just needs to be somewhere that's not going to get stolen, not going to get wet, not going to have, any sort of rodent damage or whatever. That's why I don't like storage units. That's just a garage door. Rodents can get in that. Not that they'd be attracted to Lego, but I would be very sad if I opened up my door to my warehouse and saw that something ate through the boxes of my gingerbread houses. So, what I'm saying is I Googled warehouses for a long time and I couldn't find anything that was relatively inexpensive. And now I rented this, and this is really just an office. There's nothing special about it. It's a door, 4 walls, and an electrical outlet. And I'm using it as Lego storage. The guy next to me is using it as a wood shop. Then there's a person down the street that's using it as a recording studio. So, don't limit your search to warehouse, because I think that has, they mark up the price for that, especially these days with COVID and e-commerce and whatever.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a question, Steve. I'm curious if this has ever crossed your mind. So you have an office slash warehouse. It's got a loading dock, and you have a business address, and I believe you said you have a website. So you carry and an EIN, but that's everybody. That's business 101. So you carry, in my view, quite a bit of legitimacy, right? Um, have you thought about selling anything else on Amazon? For example, and people laugh when I say this, but I've always said to myself, I guarantee you, if I got into the diaper game on Amazon, I could crush it. Like I really, it almost got to that point one time because I had a website. The website isn't up anymore, and I had an EIN and I had quite a few things going. And I was talking to, well, I'll just come out and say what I had. I had a 501(c), and which is a charitable entity, and I was wanting to partner with Pampers and a few other places. And I was talking to the salespeople, and they sent me, PDFs of the order catalog, but I just never, there was some ungating involved and a few other things. But I did the math, and I was like, man, I can make like $8,000 a month, I think. And now that I'm thinking about it, I might, after this live chat, I might do some more investigating. But have you thought about doing other stuff like that?
Yeah. I think it's always, all right, how do I get past the sales guy? How do I
Right.
get past the sniff test?
It's the
Because a lot of them-
gatekeeper. It's the gatekeeper, man.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people like me that have a warehouse now, right? But they're still not a diaper salesman, right? They don't have a website that just sells children toys or, everyday children items, right? So they're going to go, well, what do you sell? And they go, Legos and my private label product, which is totally unrelated, and occasional stuff that I find due to COVID. It's like you kind of have to build out a website and make it look like you're a legitimate business. Who says you have to sell anything? You just need to go to the website, have a bunch of products on there that you're selling, right? And or offering for sale. You could be out of stock. Just do that. Out of stock doesn't mean I'm not, that I didn't sell them last week, right? It's just that, but then you have to have a domain name that makes sense for that niche, right? So you're going to have Jimmy's diapers, and then you're going to have another one for Jimmy's hockey pucks, and then another one for Jimmy's screwdrivers. And you're like, okay, it kind of gets out of hand. You're like, how much web hosting or web development do I want to do? I can make something basic, but it still looks amateurish. And to pay somebody these days, they want a lot of money. And you're like, I had somebody build one once, and all they wanted me to do was provide all the content. And I was like, no. I don't have time to give you photos of stuff that I'm pretending to sell. I'm like, you go do it. You go find it. Google it. I don't care what this looks like. It was a lot of work. And I was like, I can't pay $500 to do all the work. So I kind of learned how to do it myself. But yeah, it's just time. It's time. It's opportunity cost. That's what a lot of this game is. What can I be doing today that, is going to be eating away my opportunity to do something else? Like I had my dad was actually here helping my wife while I was working my day job, pack up the private label stuff. And I said, oh, hey, Dad, I'm thinking about doing this. And he's like, well, how much would you make on that? And I was like, I don't know, maybe about $30 an hour. And he goes, why would you do that? You can just keep doing this for $100 an hour or $200 an hour or whatever it comes out to. And I was like, well, I guess. But I always like to, eventually I want to have like 10 or 20 small private label items that if one goes down, if somebody competes, it's not the end of the world, right? The other thing that I didn't mention, which is really important, is my private label product is a replenishable. It's like diapers. You run out of diapers.
Nice.
You run out of mine. So I think that's a very important thing to consider when you're selling something. Let's say you're selling screwdrivers. how many screwdrivers does Jimmy need? He only needs one of the particular one you're selling. He's not going to keep buying the same screwdriver. So you can have people that love your product, but they're only going to ever buy one. Maybe they'll buy a second one if they lose it, or 10 years later if it wears out, right? They might buy one for Christmas presents, but I have one that I've literally had the same person buy like 20 times. And I only know it because they'll buy like 20 at a time, which is a little odd. I'm like, okay, this is really high volume usage. Why does this why do I keep getting this 20 order? I'm like, oh, it's the same person. It's some company out in Arizona. Okay. So, but if I was selling widgets, they would only buy one, It's a one-time deal unless they lose it or they're buying a Christmas present for somebody.
Right.
The amazing thing as well is that like a lot of people, when they're buying replenishables online, they don't want to do the research a second time. The first time they're buying, they'll look at what's out there. I'll do a search on Amazon. I'll see, what are my options? Let's look at some reviews on the seller and then I'll make a purchase. The second time, I just want to trust the research that I did the first time. I'm not going to look again. I'm just going to go reorder it.
That's absolutely right. Unless you left a bad taste in their mouth, they're just going to reorder.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
So something I just wanted to mention that you said a lot earlier was, if you say you want to go into private label, that's great, but you should probably take a course. Is that what you would recommend?
I didn't get. It's funny. I got the course. I understand the principles. Now I know what not to do. If that makes any sense, don't do what the course tells you to do. But you have to understand what they're telling you to do in order to understand what your competitors are doing, so that you can do something different. So, right. Jim, maybe it is take the course and then find your own way. Because, and again, unless you are a marketing major, right, or you're in the industry, right? If you are the parts guy at a car dealership, well, you know everything there is about parts. Who's going to know better than you? You go, I know that they sell these brake pads, 100 of these a day. I could just go get this private labeled and sell that. That's an example where you could try to compete. But if you're just trying to just trying to find something niche, you probably don't want to go the traditional route of, that all the marketing majors are going after.
My friend, I'm in the auto repair industry, and we get all these sales reps come in all the time, and they're like, "This is the lowest price," and I'm like, "Okay," maybe I should just open up an account with you, and hand you my MasterCard and open up I already have an Amazon account, but yeah, it's really interesting. And so you do a little bit of, or maybe a lot of differentiating. Is that correct for your private label?
Well, what do you mean by differentiating?
So, so you have a product and you're doing well. You're selling it, but is there something that maybe you do with your product, like made in the USA or something like that, or something else where
that's one of my main selling points is it's made in the USA, and my competitors are not. They're all made in China. They won't say it, but it is. If anybody knows anything about anything made out of metal or any sort of tools or parts or whatever, if it doesn't say it's made in the USA, it's probably not made in the USA, because they would flaunt it if they had it. Otherwise, they're trying to hide that it's not made here. Not that there's anything wrong with any other countries. Mexico actually makes pretty decent auto parts. But if they could say it was made in Detroit, they would stamp it really big in the advertisement.
Right. I purchased the Savage Sellers course. Not sure how familiar you are with that. He's got a YouTube channel. He's like some 22-year-old kid that's like a millionaire now. But in like his first private label, he's like, yeah, I made $45,000 in a month. Big deal. But Shane's actually the gentleman that turned me to him. And he's talked about differentiation and, on different levels, whether it's just the description on Amazon, or maybe it's including one more thing or taking away one thing that sets your product apart. So that's where I was coming from with that question.
Yeah, sometimes you have to try to copy success. Let's say you're selling screwdrivers. You might not want to copy your competitors, because then the buyer's going to say this listing looks exactly like the last one. But go take a look at what the really successful pliers listings look like. How do they describe it? What words do they use? What sort of pictures are they using? And try to mimic it. If appropriate. I mean, sometimes you're like, this isn't my audience. This is the cheapest pair of pliers in the world. I'm trying to sell the longest lasting made in the USA ones. So maybe it might not be applicable, but just try to take it like, oh, okay. They use short bullet points. They don't write paragraphs,
Right.
because, the people reading it probably don't want to read that much. They're like, I'm just looking for the thing that says US made steel. Is it forged or cast? Is it, this type of, let's say it was stainless steel, maybe not applicable for pliers, right? Some people, but then on the other side, there's other products that you kind of have to tell a story. You'll just read it. The bullet points are really long, and it's because they kind of have to explain the features. So try to copy success and understand your product. Do I need to explain what this does? I don't think I need to explain what a general screwdriver looks like, does, right? Do I have to explain a tripod that has a telescoping, I can't think of what the word is, moves around, it has this, it's adjustable. Yeah, you might have to explain it. Mention that it's this, that, and the other thing. So you kind of just go for the successful listing, see what they're doing, and think about applying it to yours.
So this is a incredible nugget of wisdom, and I want to tie this back to Lego for just a second, because the same concept can be very, very useful in Lego investing, right? So we get questions about how do you set your target price, right? Like when you're buying, you should have an expectation of what you're going to sell it for, whether it's a year or 2 years or 3 years down the line, so you can calculate your expected returns. How do you set that target? How do you know what you think you're going to sell it on? Some of it is based on comps, right? And that's the kind of stuff that we do on the YouTube channel, where we're comparing the set to something similar, whether it's in the theme or a similar set that looked like it, or a past version of it. But another way you can think about it, or another thing just to keep in your back pocket, just go and look at what other people are doing, right? So like exactly what Stephen's saying, you can go on Amazon, you can look at all of the sellers that are already listing that item, and you can look at what they're listing it for. And now you can try to figure out who's the best sellers, right? So which sellers are big time and they have a lot of feedback, and they're selling big volumes. And if they've already listed this set that you're thinking about buying, and they've listed it at 3x of the retail price, that tells you what more experienced and more knowledgeable people about Lego investing think is going to happen with that set. So it's just another thing you can use. You can do the same thing on eBay. You can search for a set, look at what people are listing it at the crazy prices, and just look at the feedback scores. Is it a big seller? Is it legit? If this big seller thinks that it's going to do well, then add that to your research. I wouldn't base everything on it. It's just one extra thing to think about, but worth kind of keeping in mind. And it's exactly what Stephen's saying, right? Imitate what the people who know what they're doing are doing.
I'm gonna tie right into what you just mentioned. This is a trade secret to some. It's very obvious to others, but it's an opportunity to mimic other successful people that it's so obvious to me now, but I don't think it was obvious to me before I knew. Go in, find a seller, look at what else they sell. Okay. This is Jimmy's Amazon page. He's selling Lego. Yep, sells lots of Lego. Oh, wait a second. He's selling diapers. Wait a minute. Jimmy's selling diapers? I'm not saying, Jimmy on this channel, but anybody. You just go, okay, this guy's he has 300 different SKUs of Lego. He also has this little side business. What is the side business? Oh, wait, he has another thing and another thing. What's tying these things together? Sometimes they're tied together. Sometimes the private label things are tied together. And you go, let's say he's looking at something that's made out of plastic. Well, the items might not all be related. It's not, 3 related products, but guess what? The manufacturer is all the same. You go, boy, he sells a lot of these. Can I go contact this manufacturer and do the exact same thing? Or, or at least copy some of it, right? Or you might say, hey, this Lego guy, he sells toys too. What kind of toys is he selling? Where is he getting these from? Are these, does he have a special deal with a toy manufacturer? Or is he just flipping these? What's his criteria for flipping these toys? I'm going to give away a big golden nugget here. This is for, this is a good way to make money. Go look at Amazon exclusive toys. Guess what? When they sell out, the price jumps up. And they sell out because they don't make a lot of them. And they're, once Amazon's gone, you can't get it anywhere else. You can only get it on eBay, or if somebody creates a listing on, like, say, Walmart.com as a third party, right? So you can just search for something like that. And I found that by looking at somebody else's Amazon accounts. Why does this guy have all these exclusives? How is he getting it? Because it's exclusive. And wait a second, he's just buying them from Amazon, waiting for them to go out of stock. You can view this on Keepa, right? This is something that I know Shane likes to use. I think it's the number one tool anybody should buy. There's all kinds of tools you can spend all kinds of money on, but whatever it is, $30 or $35 a month for Keepa is a no-brainer. And I'm not a paid affiliate or anything like that, and I don't think anybody else here is. But you can see that trend. You can say, how often does this product go out of stock? You can actually set it to say, find stuff that's Amazon is out of stock 40% or more of the time, and it will just find it for you. Okay, and they're in stock now, so I should buy a bunch, right? I found out that from scoping out eBay sellers and Amazon sellers, other products that were for sale. I just lost my audio, Shane. I don't know if...
Oh, I'm sorry. I was muted. Do you do a lot of that kind of thing then, Steve? In addition to your private label, in addition to your Lego investing, are you also online arbitrage, retail arbitrage as well? General products?
I am dabbling more now that I've, found out some of that. I did pretty well with one particular product that went out that I knew was going to go out of stock. It was sort of like, well, they're not making these anymore. None of the wholesalers are offering it. But for some reason, Amazon still has some. I think it was Amazon. No, I think it was Zavi still had some. And so I was buying it from them for, say, $99 and selling it for $260. Not even in Q4. And yeah, it's just opportunistic. And you have to look at things like Keepa graphs to understand the market. I mean, there's some people that just know because they're in the toy trade or they're in the auto parts trade. There's also, it's all about information. And sometimes, like, I don't sell toys for a living other than Lego. Like, I don't have a toy store, so I don't know. I don't have customers telling me all the time that they can't find a certain transformer, right? If you have that kind of information, then that's golden. But otherwise, I kind of have to look at Keepa charts to figure out demand and stock levels and things in that nature.
Yeah, and the skill set maps over, right? So like when you start selling on Amazon, in one product category, over time, you're going to be able to map those same skill sets across. And Keepa is the first thing that you get taught when you're looking at book selling, for example, right? Everyone in the world of selling books on Amazon is using Keepa for everything. And then as soon as I started looking at Lego sets, it was like a no-brainer, right? Use the same skills, use the same tools. And same with Jungle Scout for private label. You can use the same tool for other things, including Lego. So, and then your knowledge and skill sets just continue to map. So, investing in if you're new to reselling or e-commerce in general, coming back to that question we asked about the course, like investing a little bit in learning the basics up front it's gonna map into not just that thing that you're looking at, but other things as well, over time. Jim, are you back in? You good?
I am. I'm sorry. So, this is interesting, Steve. After, and I'll do it to you too, Shane, if you want. But I'm going to send you a link to this store or this website that's a store, and the person that owns this business, he's well, I definitely don't want to say his name because he's a interesting fellow, and if you were to Google him, he would immediately pop up. And he's been on the Joe Rogan program, and he sells a lot of like raw industrial metals, and he does really well. And the last thing I'm wanting to do is put this gentleman out of business. But I'm looking at his website, and I'm saying to myself, like, what is? I mean, he does sell depleted uranium, which I'm not suggesting that any of us go into the depleted uranium business, but he does sell a lot of other metals and things of that sort. And since you have a product, I would be curious just to hear your input and feedback on how difficult doing something like that is. Now I know Amazon has a lot of restrictions for hazmat, and I don't think anything he sells is really hazmat with the exception of depleted uranium. But Amazon, when it comes to, I know Amazon has different qualifications where it's when something isn't necessarily hazmat, but Amazon will call it that. But I'd be curious to hear what your opinion of this gentleman's website is and the things that he sells, because I really think there's nothing to it. And I go on his website maybe once a month, and I'm just looking around, and it just seems so easy to get into. But that's definitely something I want to share with you after, and maybe when we're in the green room afterwards, I can after the live chat goes down, we could talk about it a little bit more. But it's just interesting, the private label and your strategy. I mean, I didn't know it was made in the USA, and when you just mentioned how big of a competitive advantage is, I mean, that's just a mind blown. It's I mean, it really seems like, and you say you have plans to hopefully have 10 other products of private label. Let me ask you this. We've toyed around in the conversation about quitting our full-time jobs. Let's say you quit your full-time job tomorrow. I mean, you're going to have some free time, right? So that would give you a lot of equity and extra time to start to get those other private labels off the ground. Is that right?
Yes, I think the challenge is that I could spend 8 hours researching and I might find zero. I can spend 40 hours researching and I might find zero. Or I might spend that time trying to talk to manufacturers and I might get the door slammed in my face. So while it does free up your time, it may be that I'll have more time to pack and ship and do some of the stuff without relying on Amazon, or develop a website, or enhance some of the brands, improve the imagery, consider different variations, like either sizes or colors, or to be able to toy with that. But if I got laid off tomorrow and I had 30 days to come up with something, I might not come up with anything profitable. I could find things to sell, right? I mean, I could even flip Lego and make some money. But to find something that's going to be profitable month after month, or at least seasonally, right? Because there is strategy in just selling Halloween decorations. You could just do that and say, I'm going to make $30,000 every Halloween, and then I'll make another $30,000 at Christmas, and I'll make another $30,000 at Easter. But it's only like 1 or 2 months worth of that genre. I don't know anything about that, but there's things that are seasonal. I have one thing that's seasonal. It's 2 months of the year. It's not a holiday. It's just it's a perishable item that's only makes sense during that period. So, if I could do 4 things, and one was in the spring, one's in the fall, one's in the winter, I could just do seasonal too, and not worry about the evergreen effect of it, as long as it comes back every 12 months.
Right.
Back to your raw material stuff. I actually looked at selling wood on Amazon. I dabbled in woodworking a little bit. I noticed how hard it was to find some of the, like, I just need a 10-inch piece of pine. I don't want to drive to the store to get it, right? I'm working tomorrow. Can I just have Amazon Prime ship it to me? You know, there's actually somebody on Amazon that does it. They probably have ties to like a lumber yard. I haven't looked at it since the lumber has gone through the roof. This was pre-COVID that I was looking at this. But you can look at, you know, raw material type of things and go, is this available on Amazon? Would somebody like this? Is this something that somebody doesn't need 100 pounds of or 30 feet of that is something that you could ship? I don't have a great example off the top of my head, but like if you had a need for like a block of lead because you were, I don't know, making your own fishing weights, right? You can't just walk into Home Depot and buy that.
Right.
Is lead rare? No. But is it marketed? No. So you could maybe start selling slabs of lead that you can put in a flat rate box. Geez, I'm giving away a business model here. I've never even looked into this. But you could totally just, you know, the criteria is kind of like, is it too big to ship? Is it really, really heavy? I know lead is heavy, but you could probably get it into a flat rate box and pack it well enough that it'll be doable, right? And you're going to max out with the flat rate shipping anyway, so the weight's really not a concern as long as it's not going to destroy the box being too heavy. And, you know, and you're just looking for opportunities. Who's not doing this? One of my private label things is something you would think it was at Home Depot, and it's not. And it's something that it's, you know, there's probably some stuff in Home Depot that people don't buy that often, and for some reason mine's not there. And I'm like,
well, maybe you need to get into Home Depot.
I know. Maybe I need to call up Home Depot and be there.
Seriously, I mean,
that is part of, you know, I went into a store recently and asked if they had it, and they said, "Oh, we used to carry that," and I don't know why they don't anymore. But I was thinking, you know what? I could probably sell to some of these stores. I could even let them have it for a certain amount of period without even paying me, just to see if it sells locally. I think it will once people realize that it's there. The people that need it, I can just go run down to the store and get it.
Steven, I never want to know what your product is, but I guarantee you, I'll make a business card and I'll go to maybe not Home Depot, but I'll go to like the mom and pop. I mean, it's just as a challenge and to see if I could get get a couple accounts going. I mean, whatever your product is, it just seems great and it's exciting.
It's the most boring thing in the world.
But it's a need. It may be boring, but it's. I mean, listen. I used to sell cemetery plots. I mean, it's a need. It's a need, right?
Yep.
Wow. We have a question here. So I'm going to, folks who are watching, I'm going to go back up. There's a couple of questions about Lego investing. I haven't missed them, but just while we're talking about private label selling on Amazon and stuff like that, I don't want to steer us away from that yet. But here's a good one about raw materials, Steve. Are you seeing issues with costs on raw materials? Are you seeing inflation yet, or do you expect that maybe that might happen?
I actually just received an email from my manufacturer stating that the raw steel cost is going up. They've sent it a couple times. I only saw maybe like let's say, a unit of what a bulk unit of what I buy is like $125. They up the price to like $140, but I get about 100 units out of that. So, I was typing it in today. I was like, it's like 14 cents, 15, 20 cents, whatever, depending on the weight that I'm using. So it is going up. I'll tell you that, like the lumber industry, I think I'm just going to raise my prices and then just not bring them back down. I'm just going to use it as the opportunity to go, well, people know this stuff is getting more expensive. Why don't I bump this up another couple of dollars and just leave it there?
Because Amazon's fees are going up as well.
Yeah.
Pretty much every year, except last year. They gave us a break.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So I guess just to kind of close out on the private label stuff, so anyone who's been watching who's interested in learning more about it. I know that you've talked a little bit about the importance for you and your model of sourcing locally in the US, and to do that, obviously, you've needed to knock on doors and get scrappy, have a warehouse space that can make you look more official. A lot of these things that wholesale Amazon sellers talk about a lot. No distributor will work with you unless you have these things in place. But to a newcomer to private label, it might seem a little bit daunting. Do you think, if someone wanted to get started, do you think that they should even look at Alibaba and China to get started, or do you recommend going your direction right out the gate?
I think it kind of depends on the product. If you're just want to sell hats that say Jimmy on it, and you want to get it cheap from China, and you're going to trademark the name Jimmy, right? Go China's do China. You'll get them significantly cheaper, and they'll ship it right to Amazon. You'll be protected by your trademark. Nobody can mess around with that. Okay. If you want to sell, I'm trying to think of something that's actually manufactured here. That's because I could say earphones, but guess what? I don't know that there's too many U.S. manufacturers that even make earphones, so that's not a good example. But if you're gonna try and go after something where all the Amazon sellers are primarily sourcing it from China and they're going to kill you on price, you have to come back at them with quality, significant quality that's noticeable to the consumer. So, like I said, and I think Jim said he recognizes it because he's from Pittsburgh. There is some truth to saying that U.S. steel is better than steel from other places. I think it actually has something to do with, from where we mine it from. It's like a better source, right? That is known to some of my consumers, right? And especially to the ones that I'm sort of marketing to, right? I'll give you an example. Some of those Chinese competitors, they sell a lot more than I do, but they sell it for a lot less. And their reviews are a little bit spotty, right? So I have products with, I have several with like 100, and I have a couple that have 200 views, 100% organic. I never participated in any of the fake review things, which are not fake reviews, paid reviews, which is not allowed anymore. A few years ago, you used to be able to give somebody a product and they'd review it for you, whatever, and it would be legit, but you kind of asked them to do it. My quality is showing that I have no negative reviews. I mean, I probably have a couple, but they don't show up because we have 1 out of 200. You're still got 4.9 stars. You can't tell the difference. You have to come at them with something that's in their face, right? Where the one made in China is, geez, sometimes it's more than 50% less cost than mine, but they're, you can kind of tell the quality. You can tell the reviews aren't that great. You can tell the pictures are kind of cookie cutter, like that's not really that model holding that thing. They're not using it. Mine, it's my hand, and I'm doing the act that I'm performing the act that the item is used for, right? And it's not like, some hand model that would never, ever, ever touch my product. And I'm catering to this middle America, and I don't no politics aside, but they're probably Trump supporters, right? They might be, in mine. I think mine's sort of used in manufacturing, right? So, I'm just channeling all my energy at that and saying, I don't care if somebody's grandmother doesn't buy this because she's not really my customer.
Right.
The Chinese seller might be selling to grandma, but I'm just focusing on a certain niche of customers. And, some people might say that's not a good business model, but I can't compete with China on price. And I know that. So I'm trying to compete with them on quality, and I'm trying to steal a whole market segment from them. And so far it's working. Now, if you had a product and it was all about price and quality wasn't a big issue, like who needs a high quality baseball cap that's, that you're going to wear twice? probably not a big deal, right? If you're selling like political hats or something like that, you can go get the cheapest one that looks the best, and you'll be golden. But if you're trying to beat somebody in quality, then you kind of have to go that route and channel it towards the people that care about quality. Don't try to cater quality to somebody that doesn't care about it, you know?
Good stuff. All right, so I want to tie back a little bit more to Lego investing, and for if anyone joined us kind of halfway through, we were talking a lot about private label, which is when you're sourcing a product from a manufacturer and selling it, whether it's online or in stores or whatever. And Steve does it on Amazon, but he also is a Lego investor reseller. And it's a great example of funneling money from one e-commerce or reselling business into Lego investing, which is a kind of a great way to fund Lego investing. So, Steve, you mentioned earlier that you've done quite well by doing quick flips with Lego, right? So buying and then selling in Q4 when it goes out of stock or whatever. That's not an area that we elaborate a whole lot on, and I know both Jim and I have, we do some of it, but we don't talk a lot about that. So just for anyone who's interested in that aspect of Lego reselling, do you have any thoughts or kind of quick tips, I guess, to someone who wants to do that this Q4?
Sure. So you're going to want to monitor the number of sellers that, it's hard to do preparation for this. Okay. Maybe prep out your Lego stores, come up with a game plan to be able to go in and out of there several times, whether it's, bring your wife, bring your friend, bring your mom. I wore a disguise. I just changed my clothes. And because it was COVID, I had a mask on. I didn't know that the guy in the leather jacket is the same guy that was wearing a raincoat. It was, I felt silly doing it, but there was nobody in the store. They were stocked. The mall was empty. I was like, who cares if I buy 2 cantinas or 1 cantina? Like that, it's just going to sit there anyway. So anyways, what you want to do is look at sets that are probably going to want to, you don't want to do this with $10 sets because there's not enough money to be made unless the set starts jumping in price. So I'll give you an example. I was buying those Ecto ones for, I don't remember the retail is on that. Is that 200? I think it was 200, and they were selling for like 350. And the shipping is $20 to $30 depending on how far it's going, whether you have a box or not. I usually save all the Lego boxes, but you might lose $3 or $4 on that. And then the Amazon fees, you can make, without doing any math, you can make $50. You might make 75. It sort of depends, right? If you just keep doing it, if you can do that 10 times in one day, that's $750, between $500 and $750. And you do that for a few days, and you start making somebody's monthly salary. And so you just kind of have to, you can use Keepa. You can just look at the number of sellers that are on a product and say, there's only like 3 guys selling Ecto ones. Once they're out, I have various softwares that tell me how many, they're like Chrome extensions that say how many units sell per month. I can't remember off the top of my head what they're called because they just automatically load. It's like Keepa. It just loads at the top of the screen. You go, it looks like there's only 100 in stock between these 3 people. And guess what? It sells 300 a month. That's going to go out of stock soon. So when I'm looking at Christmas, I'm going to say, what's my opportunity, right? Are they going to run out of creeper mines? Creeper mine's a bad example because it'll be retired. Are they going to run out of these elf clubhouses? Are they going to run out of the cantina again? Are they going to run out of the new Star Wars sets that are coming out, right? And try to target those. But it's really an opportunity type of thing, right? They could have a million gingerbread houses for all we know, right? It's sort of something you have to research that day, that week, and then run to a store and buy it, or buy it on Walmart. And, they usually get it to you pretty quick these days, a couple of days.
Yeah. So the key there, I think, is that it's research first, not store first, right? I think a lot of people who are, they're doing retail arbitrage in Q4, and they're trying to find things to flip faster. They're going to the stores first and scanning everything on the shelves with the Amazon seller app and checking who's in stock and stuff like that. But you'll save yourself a lot of headaches by doing that research when you're sitting at home in the morning, building a hit list and then heading out.
Yeah, I mean, I scanned the stuff in the store too, and it may just because I didn't look at that product on Amazon. Yeah, absolutely. Don't go there, without doing any research, or you're gonna look crazy. Like, why is this guy scanning every item on the shelf? I'm probably scanning 1 and 2. Like, oh, I forgot to scan the haunted house. How's that stealing? Plus, you might make a trip for nothing. These days, you can see what's in stock with BrickSeek or whatnot. Maybe not the Lego store. Like, my Lego store does not provide any. They say they're out of stock on everything. I'm like, really?
Mhm.
You're out of stock on, on all the basics? Like, no, they're just not feeding the website. They probably say we don't want people coming in and scalping or whatnot. Yeah, definitely do the research.
Yeah, and I think that's like a misconception as well of like when people watch a lot of these retail arbitrage videos. Yes, like the person who's in the store who's finding profitable items are scanning items. Most of the time, though, they know a couple of things that they're going to pick up before they get there, and they've got resources and tools and network as well that gives them that information, right? So like we in our Facebook groups, we share Lego bolos and deals, but also we had Justin Flipping Accountant on here a couple of weeks ago, and he was talking about Instagram to find Lego deals and stuff like that. And BrickSeek you mentioned is a great one, but like in order to be successful with retail arbitrage, I think there needs to be a level of tapping into your network, using every sort of research tool and way that you can find the deals, and then going out. Don't just show up at a Walmart and start scanning, which you can find stuff, but someone else will probably have gotten there before you.
Yeah, I hate to give away all my secrets, but one thing that will help you there in terms of network is join some Lego groups. I don't know the names of them off the top of my head, just generic ones. A Star Wars one for adults, etc. And guess what? When there's Lego clearance, sometimes those people find it first. And you're at 7:00 at night, not thinking about Lego, and somebody goes, "Hey, look, I just found this for 50% off at Walmart," and you fall out of your chair to check BrickSeek. You're like, "Oh my God, it just updated in my state 20 minutes ago. Good thing this guy told me, because I'm going to run out the door now as opposed to checking in again in the morning." Somebody else starts. So definitely use your network. I think there's a Reddit group that does it. There's both the Patreon group and the unpaid and the Lego investing and reselling group. There's all sorts of places. I haven't thought of Instagram. I'm going to have to check that out. And, just scan through it. And, I'm not searching by anything. It'll just pop up in my feed. I'm sure I miss stuff. Boy, if I could get a bot that just searches social media for Lego deals based on photos and comments, that's interesting. Probably not worth the investment, but maybe someday.
So I'm going to jump into a couple of comments that were put in the chat here around Lego. Hillian's Bricks. Do you see the amount of new people getting into Lego as a risk to your potential return on investment in the future? Do you worry about that at all, Steve?
I've been thinking about it. I actually wanted to ask you guys about that exact same question. I find that I have more competition in terms of buying clearance, which I view clearance as a bonus. If I find clearance and I can buy $1,000 to $2,000 worth of that stuff, and I can sell it and make that same amount, like $1,000 to $2,000, that's just guaranteed money. I mean, I'm just going to buy it. It's 50% off. I can sell it at regular retail price and probably make 30% without even thinking. If I keep it a little longer, I'll get 100%. If you keep it longer, you can just keep going with it, right? But so that gets a little bit more challenging. I'm going to guess like that lightning deal the other day on the Mandalorian ship there. I'm going to bet Prime Day 5 years ago, you probably could have got your hands on a lightning deal for Lego. I'm pretty sure all the sellers all snatched that up, and there's just so many more people doing that because that was gone in 30 seconds. Nothing is gone in 30 seconds besides maybe a TV on a lightning deal. And so I don't know. I wonder. I haven't gone through a Q4. I haven't gone through enough years to really, with significant volume to really notice. All of my stuff sells in December. I don't have a problem. I'm noticing now, hey, don't sell anything until December 16th. If you don't have to, if you're not going to get your price, just keep it longer. You can sell everything all the way up until maybe December 22nd at the right price. So I don't know what, I don't have like 5 Decembers to compare it to, because I think the majority of my Lego stuff is Q4 or COVID March.
I think you were the gentleman, Steve, that shot me a DM and was talking about the uptick in Walmart sellers, weren't you?
Yes, I got approved, and I was doing a happy dance because I was like, oh my God, I'm going to be the only one selling. I'll say like the Dilophosaurus on the loose. There's no sellers, right? I can ask $50 for it. And if somebody sees it, they'll buy it if they're not price shopping. Right. And then, not like a month later, all of a sudden, everybody is on Walmart. And I'm like, oh, okay. So this is just going to be just like Amazon. You're going to have to wait until all the people sell out. And because for the last few years, the third-party sellers just ask whatever they want. Not to say that they sell it, but if grandma's on Walmart.com or somebody has a Walmart.com gift card and they want a certain set, they're going to buy it from the only person that's available. As long as it's reasonable. I see some stuff and I'm like, really, you're asking $75 for that action figure? It's like $20 at Target. Like, are people really that silly? I know Lego's a little bit more lucrative, but now it's like, nope. Now it's all Amazon. It's all like price matched Amazon. It's probably the same people selling on Amazon and Walmart. So, yeah.
I guess
Jim,
for me, I see a lot of sellers, but I always I always look for the bright side of things. I like to, as many people like to go in deep, if you want to call it, and have 100 or 200 of one set. So whenever I check the quantities out there of these third-party resellers, I'm like, okay, I would say 90% of the time they have less than 10. I would say maybe 50% of the time they have less than 5. So it's, I take comfort in that because I'm like, all right, this if it's the second week of December, this inventory is going to burn out, and that's it. And then once it's my turn to sell. Well, guess what? Because I have such large quantity, I'm not going anywhere anytime soon. And that's the way I look at it. And it's interesting because, I always, there's this person that was in my Bible study group years ago. And, I mentioned, hey, I do stuff on eBay and whenever I tell people I'm on, Amazon or eBay, I don't I just say it like that. I'm not like, I did 6 figures. I just say, I'm a power.
Mm. Jim, you're cutting out a bit there.
It might sell on eBay, and I was able to sell it. Am I? Is my internet going?
Yeah. You sound like a robot. Try again now.
All right. Sorry about that. But I don't know where I left off, but I'll have some friends or acquaintances be like, oh yeah, 3 months ago I sold 2 or 3 items of this, and they're kind of looking at me like they're my equal, and I just I just nod my head. I'm like, oh, okay, well that was good. I'm sure that was fun for you. So there's a lot of people that are just scared, and they don't want to go in deep. So I don't see any big whales. Like I don't see the uptick in big whales, if you want to call it. Sure, there might be 10 more gingerbread house sellers, but we all know how that goes. I mean, getting gingerbreads are hard. So they might have 5, they might have 10, and I talk about selling the 200 units of Mandalorian with child brickheads in less than 90 minutes occasionally, because I think that proves that if you had 40 resellers selling 5 each versus me selling 200 each, I mean that inventory just burns right through it, right? So right now I'm really not too concerned, because there's just not a lot of, I mean, it's one thing to sell Lego a little bit as a hobby. It's another thing to mortgage a house or put 10 grand in on it. And I don't see a lot of those people out there. And
the one thing that concerns me a little bit,
I honestly don't see that come. What's that?
I said the one thing that concerns me a little bit is, I've sold things that were really lucrative that, not the whole world was doing. I would say in comparison, like there's probably less Lego resellers than there are, I don't know, graphic card resellers or whatever. Like there's a zillion people doing that because it's extremely profitable, right? And we're kind of flying under the radar, I think. I think Target's the only one that really cares how many you buy and resell. And so I'm concerned that, like, some of these other retailers might catch on at some point. I don't know. Walmart will ever care. They love selling stuff. They're going to make their profit margin on all of it. But, like, I'm worried someday that there's going to be 5 guys in the Lego aisle in Q4, and we're all going to be fighting each other like Cabbage Patch dolls trying to get the items to flip. Right now I'm the only one in that aisle. I might see a grandma, right? Even on a busy day, you're going to see a few people. There's no resellers, and we're not even looking at the same stuff. They're, I'm looking for what's out of stock on Amazon. They're looking for what Charlie wants for Christmas. But I worry about like store managers catching on. It may just be a portion of the business that could be hindered by it. Well, local managers and whatnot becoming privy to what we're doing. But yeah, I mean, I don't see any big whales coming on either. Well, besides me. I mean, I was nobody a little while ago, and now I have, I'm trying to think what I have, like 200 wool farms. I'll probably just keep buying more. I don't know what's a lot, but
it's a good number.
There's one company in New Hampshire that has a lot. They're like on every Lego listing, and I'm like, who is this? And I looked up their address, and it's just like it's some random house. It doesn't look like they have a gazillion dollars in Lego. And I'm like, wow.
That's so funny.
I'm like, where are they getting the quantity from?
They're probably in the group. So let me take
right.
Whoa. let me add, just a couple of quick points on this question. Because we get it a lot, right? And in some cases, people are kind of asking us, like, do you guys really want to be making videos about Lego investing? Because you're shooting yourselves in the foot. But here's the thing. Anyone's concerned about Lego investing becoming oversaturated, go and just do a quick Google search on e-commerce and how it grew in 2020, right? So e-commerce grew something like 45% last year, right? And then Lego had its best year ever. Lego's revenue was like something like $1 billion more than it was 2 years prior last year. So Lego is at the height of its game in terms of popularity, and it's hotter than it ever was before in terms of just popularity and demand and sales. And e-commerce now, you've got so many more people turning to the internet to order everything that they need, right? And new markets, older people who never bought things online have been forced to start doing it. Just new people jumping into the world of shopping online, and e-commerce had a boom. So merge those two things together, and you get increased Lego sales online, right? By a lot. And yes, resellers will grow, and it'll continue to grow because interest, even if we were not, influencing that in any way, it would grow because people are getting interested in selling and reselling and retail arbitrage and selling on Amazon. So it will grow, but I honestly don't believe that it can grow as fast as e-commerce is growing and as fast as Lego demand is growing. We can have a handful more resellers on a listing, and there's still plenty of room for us all to eat at the table, right? Like there's so much demand for the stuff that everyone's going to sell your stuff, and everyone's going to do well. And it's also the fact that like Lego investing, it itself encompasses all sorts of different niches, right? So you have, people who specialize in certain themes. You have people who won't spend or won't buy the low price sets, won't buy the high price sets. You have people that are selling on different marketplaces. So maybe there's less people on Amazon, or there's less people on Walmart or Facebook or OfferUp or, wherever. So the community of Lego investors are divided across all these different things, whether it's different marketplaces, different themes, different, price points, and different hold times, right? So some people are selling after 6 months and others are selling after 6 years. So it's a relatively small community, and it's divided in all these different ways. And yet the market for what we're selling is just huge. So I look at it like that. I personally think that there's just plenty of room for us all to eat. I think that there's, the reseller market would need to grow a heck of a lot faster than it has been for it to get in any way saturated. And I haven't seen any evidence that it's been saturated. And I think prices are still jumping, and even not based on our own sales, but even just looking at Keepa or current listings and price jumps, or Camel even, and price jumps when things go out of stock. If there were an abundance of resellers out there, you wouldn't have that behavior anymore, right? You wouldn't have like what we just saw in Q4 with the Razor Crest, where it went out of stock. It's a $130 set, went out of stock, and then it was selling for $340 or something like that. Like it's immediately jumped like that. So if there was a lot of supply, and when Amazon's out of stock, that supply is reseller supply. If there's a lot of reseller supply, you don't have that surge in the price. So the fact that still happens, I don't think there's too many resellers at all in Lego, and I don't think it's going to happen.
I'd like to kind of revise that question. Do you think that us as a Lego resellers, and the amount of new resellers, and maybe possibly this channel, are having an impact on Lego production? So like the masses chasing after that gingerbread house and constantly putting it out of stock, and then all of a sudden, like, they just keep cranking those out. I think some executive at Lego was like, "Hey, Walmart wants more gingerbread houses. They want 3 times more than they wanted last year. Keep making those." I know that they obviously have so many machines and they can only do so much of that. But I'm thinking that, some of our demand on the ATST, some of our demand on things like the gingerbread house. There's like massive people on, in this group and other Lego areas. Oh, it's back in stock, and everybody goes and runs. I got 10, I got 20. There's probably people who only bought 1 or 2 or whatever. But we're like creating interest, and I'm wondering that if some of that is actually causing Lego to produce more. And now I'm thinking about this, and I'm going to stop buying the mass hysteria stuff, because all these guys are going to get stuck with their gingerbread houses, and I'm going to be over here buying the Moana set that nobody gives 2 craps about. It's going to go out of stock, and I'm going to have 300 of them, and I'm going to be like, oh, thank God I didn't buy the gingerbread house. Not that the gingerbread house will be fine. It might just not peak as quick as other sets that are not, I want to say highly produced. We have no idea what the population of Lego sets are, other than the quantities available on Amazon. I don't know how many Mandalorian battle packs they made, right, versus another set right next to it. I assume they made more, but we don't really know. It's not like coins. If anybody collects coins, you can open up a book and they tell you exactly how many million 1916 D Mercury dimes were made. There's no question. They made, I think it was like 600,000 or 200,000 of them or something like that. So if you have a whole boatload of them, you have a good percentage of them. You know, with Lego, I don't know if they make 1 million Mandalorian battle packs, if they make 100,000, if they make 10,000. They don't know what a reasonable number is. So I mean, we might not be able to answer the question, but I'm wondering if you guys think we are having some impact on Lego production.
Yeah.
I think we are to a point. I don't think we're having as much of an impact as what I used to think. You know, I, for those of you that may have been on a different Lego Facebook group many months ago, I made some comment, and it was maybe like an A-Foles Lego, or there's some Facebook group out there, and you know, I made the comment that I'm afraid to mention it, but I'm going to, that you know, the resellers are what is propping up Legos, and wow, and I wasn't like, my goodness. I mean, I thought, and just excuse about what I'm gonna say. I thought like Taylor Swift fans were vicious on Twitter. Let me tell you. Let me tell you, did I freaking get it? And I was like, all right, well, maybe, let me reevaluate, and it was quite the spirited exchange. And then after, I just kept on taking rights and lefts, and eventually went down for the count. I reevaluated what my thoughts were, because people came up with good stuff. Like, they're like, no, Bionicles is what brought Lego back. You know, Lego came back on their own. It had nothing to do with you, you know, sicko resellers. And I'm like, all right. And so I do think we have an impact, but I don't think it's as big as what I once thought it was, or maybe even what I would like it to be. Because, you know, I've thought about, you know, George Soros, you know, allegedly brought down one country because he crashed the currency. And I said to myself, well, if we just stop buying Lego, all the resellers, would we like crash Lego, right? And for a long time I thought yes, we would, but I don't believe that's the case now. I think they would see, you know, a drop down a little bit, or a spike in declining sales, but I think that would be more of a, you know,
Amazon and Walmart will lose a significant amount of money on third-party sellers. The amount of fees that I pay, and I'm small time. If you take all of that to every third-party Amazon seller of a Lego set, I mean, it might be chump change to Jeff Bezos, but it might be noticeable if they're like, hold on a second, we got like, you know, 1,000 sellers that are no longer selling, let's say, between $50 and $1 million in sales and Legos, right? And then take your 25% or whatever the number is of fees off of that, and like, hold up, wait a minute, we just lost like $10 million. Like, what happened? You know, I do. Here's an example. Do you think we affected the treehouse? Do you think resellers brought that back to life?
Let me tell you, I have so many opinions on that treehouse. And I actually, so earlier today, I started a YouTube video, and I just shut it off halfway through. I was like, I just can't do this. And it was going to be on the new promo bricks retired list, and, you know, the treehouse is on it. And I really think that is, and here's the deal too, you know, and I'm sure some people know this, right? You know, where does the retirement list come from? Like when you get a retirement list from Promo Bricks or Brick Fanatics, where does it come from? It doesn't come from Lego, right? Well, then where does it come from? I personally believe it's people that Brick Fanatics either has on a payroll, or they have a close relationship with, where they have, you know, they know people that order stuff on Lego, and it's no longer on their order sheet. Okay, now that doesn't mean it's officially retired, and I think the Treehouse was one of those sets that it happened to, and I strongly believe the Treehouse is going to be a set that they said it's going to be retiring this December. Well, I wouldn't be surprised if it came back for 3 months in Q4 of 2022. Boy, wouldn't that be upsetting? I would love to go on Brick Picker and see all the people wanting to jump off of skyscrapers on that one, like they were the Saturn V rocket. But I think the Treehouse, and I do feel that we've had some impact. I mean, I firmly believe that the Santa's Workshop set, I believe it was the first Winter Village set that was extended a third year. I totally believe that was due to resellers. Now, and don't ask me what set it is, because I can't think of it off the top of my head, but I do think that Lego has been burned because they've tried to combat resellers, and they've extended the life of sets, and there was just nobody buying it. It was just sitting on the shelf. But yeah, I definitely think that it's so funny you mentioned that Treehouse. And
I think we were buying it like crazy. I was flipping it in COVID. Okay, I would buy as many as I could get. It was it was a supply issue. You could only buy a few and they'd be out, right? And I think they re-released it. And here's an observation that I want you guys to think about. How many ideas sets that are popular are consistently on sale? Not very many. You can get that Treehouse for $170 almost all the time. Like Walmart must have asked for a lot of stock on that, and it keeps flowing in there, and they can't get rid of it at $200. I'm like, that Ecto one doesn't go on sale. The Haunted House doesn't go on sale. None of those idea sets really go on sale for, more than just like a Prime Day or whatever. That thing is $170 all the time. So I think what happened was they go, oh, let's re-release it because Jimmy, Shane, and Steve are buying it like crazy. They can't keep it in stock. We see it get re-released, and all of a sudden we go, oh, I'm not buying any more Treehouses. I might even dump mine. I sold mine. I sort of break even sort of price. Sold it for like $250. I was like, get this out of here. These take up too much space. And I can use that $200 to buy, stuff that's going to retire in July, and I'll sell it at Christmas, right? And I know it's going to retire. Nobody's going to re-release a random Ninjago set, right? I think we had an impact. I think they've now produced too much of it, and Walmart is having to not liquidate it, but they have to keep it on sale, and they're not running out of it.
Yeah, you see, I think it's feasible of a thought when it comes to the high priced sets, right? Because naturally, when something is a higher price, it has less quantity is going to be demanded, and so they produce less of them, right? And if you go into any retailer, you're going to see one or two big sets in terms of quantity, like the modular buildings. There might be 2 corner garage, but then you'll see 40 McLaren Speed Champions sets, right? Because, generally the retailers will have a lot more of those. And so if the quantity demanded suddenly shoots up for the high price set, like a Treehouse, Lego or the Lego group are probably thinking, oh, great. Okay, this is a highly demanded set. Let's go make a ton more of them. It's a great point that you raised, Steve. And I think just reflecting, like everyone here should reflect a little bit about what it means when a set is discounted, right? And especially the high price sets, because it does happen less frequently. And your point about like Haunted House, I haven't seen Haunted House discounted ever. I don't think I've seen it discounted since it was released. Versus Treehouse, which is it's readily available at a discounted price. So what does that tell us? Is there a lot of supply out there? So even if it's not linked to resellers, that point alone, like focusing on and paying attention to stuff that's always on discount, is pretty important because it'll impact the supply.
I can keep going all night, guys.
We're closing in on 2 hours, so I think we should start to close out. Jim, do you have any last last questions?
Not really. Other than I just want to mention, one of the things that made me gravitate towards you many months ago was somebody on one of the Facebook groups was mentioning the advent calendars, and I think you made a comment something like I try and stay away from advent. It's a good day if I never think of advent calendars or or see advent calendars on Amazon. What is like the one or two themes or sets that you try and stay away from?
Oh, that's a good question because I've been trying to diversify. I don't mess around with city too much unless it's discounted. I do have some of the space stuff. I think it was like the shuttle transport. I picked up a few. I might have 5 or 10. It was like, all right, let's just see how this goes as an experiment.
Right.
But like, I don't buy stuff that you can just, unless it's discounted. If it's discounted and it's city, it's still okay. I can still, because you can always get right back up to regular retail price, make some money. If it just goes up a little bit past that, you're at your 100% ROI. If you're getting that 50% off Walmart clearance. I'm trying to think, what else do I not touch? I'm just like picturing the Walmart aisle, and I'm like, what do I just not even bother with? You know what? I'm really staying away from DC superhero stuff.
Right.
I have not. I don't even bother researching it. I'm sure if one of you guys said, "Oh, this one's good," I might take a look at it. But myself, I won't even. If it's on Amazon, I just scroll past it. I have no interest in it. I haven't seen any winners with that. I feel like Marvel, when there's no movie coming out, has been a little lacking. Some of the stuff just sits there. I have War Machine busters that are just not going up. I still have the previous Hulk buster. It's stuck at like $50 maybe. Retired like 2 years ago. I'm like, I only have 2 of them. I think they might have been Christmas returns or something. And I really should just sell them and get rid of them and forget about them. But I'm like, I can't believe these things just don't move. They were, what are they, $25, $30, those Hulk busters, regular retail?
Yeah.
It's stuck at 55. I'm like, this should really be like $60, $65 6 months after retirement. And it's not. And then they just have no sales velocity. I'm like, yeah, you want to know why? Because there's no more Iron Man movies. Nobody cares. If they come up with an Iron Man TV show, these things are going through the roof. So those two things I've been sort of staying away from.
Gotcha.
And I did have a question for you guys, and now I can't remember what it was. Oh, the advent calendars? That was not me.
Oh, okay.
I think they are Star Wars and Harry Potter. You can expect them to be. I never know what the retail price on them. What are they, 40? And nobody ever actually pays 40 because
Something
they're always
like that.
on sale. They're usually about $55 to $60 regular retail price after they retire. So if you buy your Star Wars sets from 2020, you might be able to pull out $55 to $60 regular retail price. So if you're okay with that, okay, I can buy them for 20, can hold them for a year, I'll sell them for 55, 60. I'll get that kind of ROI. It's fine. The problem is you can't really get a high volume of them because it's usually there's a small window of availability, right? You can't buy them all year because I don't even know when they start making them, but I only see them pop up in stores in like November. I can't.
I think I saw a picture of an upcoming advent calendar. I'm like, geez, we're in June, or I mean, it's not even close to Q4. Well, Q4 is right around the corner. A lot of people will think, it's later down the road. But if you're a business, you want to get your ducks in a row in August, which is almost a month away. So
I've actually been sending stuff to Amazon. I'm just trying to get some stuff off of my plate. Some of the things that been buying on Walmart. That there's been, and you guys have probably seen some of my. I don't want to give away my identity, but there's been some retired sets on Walmart. They've been getting, random quantities of retired stuff, and so I've been buying that and sending it in because I'm like, I don't need this to really mature anymore. It's not matured yet, but I'm like, as soon as they run out, Lego's not making any more of this.
Right.
So I've been that's Q4. Get that in there. I'll pay a little bit of storage, but I don't need to I don't know if I told you guys. I used to take the stuff off my porch, repackage it in moving boxes, stack and label the boxes, and log it in a spreadsheet. And then that box just kind of sits unless I need to move it for some reason to get to something. It'll just sit there and mature, right, until Q4 time, which is August, when you want to start pulling that stuff out, sending it in. But yeah, I've been trying to move some of that stuff even now. Like, there's no reason for this to sit, for me to go through the trouble of repacking this, cataloging it for what I would call cold storage. I'll pay the 2 to 3 months extra warehouse space, keeping an eye on my IPI score on Amazon. You don't want that to drop to where they're gonna not let you sell toys or whatnot in Q4, or limit your warehouse space. Right now, I think I'm unlimited. My private label stuff sells so quickly that it never really sits there. The only stuff that sits there is Lego that I'm, asking a lot of money for.
Yeah. And when you're doing big numbers on Amazon as well, they give you a little bit of cushion when it comes to some of the thresholds. Cool. All right. Seems like a good place to close it out. This has been a fantastic discussion. I love the different perspectives on e-commerce, Steve. Thanks a lot for joining us and for sharing with us. Anyone who left comments that we didn't get to, apologies about that. The discussion took so many different directions. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll have obviously more Lego investing content coming soon. More of these discussions about e-commerce, making money online. Jim, any last words?
Nope, everything's been great. Hope everybody enjoyed the show, and hope you have enough interest to check out the next one, which should hopefully be in about 2 weeks.
Thanks, guys, for having me. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks, everyone. All the best.